Hello everyone, and welcome to Story Time. Today we are going to read some stories for grade 1 of Abeka. This book is called Down by the Sea, and today we have 2 stories to read, so let's get started. Story number 1, Sea Gardens. Near the shore of the deep blue sea, underwater gardens grow, as pretty as can be. Swim down to see. In the garden, close by the shore, swims a little butterfly just above the floor. Swim down to explore. On the floor, in seas warm and cold, glides a little animal with arms red, orange, and gold. Swim down to behold. So that is called a poem. It is like a short little story with rhyming words. Do you know what rhyming words are? Very good. Rhyming words are words that sound the same but are different, like floor and explore, or gold and behold, or be and see. They sound the same, but they are different words. Okay, story number 2, Company Manners. Daniel dashed home from school. He burst through the back door and slammed it behind him. Carmela tripped me on the way home, he panted. She snatched my hat, then she tripped me. No one else has such a mean sister. At supper, Daniel helped himself to some rice. Then he set the bowl down by his plate. Next he reached for a taco shell. He filled it with meat and set that serving bowl down. Then he reached across the table for the chips and salsa. Daniel, said Mom, remember that we pass the food around the table. How was school today? Dad asked the twins. Daniel answered, but his mouth was full and no one could understand him. Kenny brought a book about Spain to school, said Carmela. That country has so many... Oh, Dad, Daniel broke in. Devin got a new dirt bike. I wondered. Wait a minute, Daniel. Your sister was talking first. Go ahead, Carmela. Carmela told about the large castles in Spain. Then she helped her mother serve lemon cake. Daniel didn't wait for his mother to pick up her fork before he started eating. He grabbed his fork and gulped down big bites of cake. He washed down the last bite with the rest of his milk. Then he wiped his mouth on his sleeve and dashed for the door. I told my friends I'd play ball, he yelled as he slammed the door. The next afternoon, Daniel burst through the back door again. Mom, he called, Carmela took my... Daniel stopped. He saw his mother and a strange lady in the living room. Daniel slipped into the bathroom to see if his face or clothes looked dirty. Then he took off his hat and washed his hands before he went to the living room. His mother was talking, so he waited quietly until she was finished. Then she told Daniel that their visitor was Mrs. Mendez, an old friend who had come to surprise her. Daniel smiled and said, I'm glad to meet you, Mrs. Mendez. At supper, the twins stood quietly behind their chairs until Mom nodded that it was time to be seated. Daniel carefully passed the food after he had taken some. When Mrs. Mendez asked Daniel how he liked school, he swallowed the food he was chewing. Then he replied, I really like it. We've learned about many different places this year. I'd like to come and visit some of the islands. Then I could learn to snorkel. When Daniel and Carmela were through eating, they waited quietly until everyone else was finished. Then they asked to be excused. The twins quietly slipped from their chairs and went into the family room. Carmela started to put a puzzle together. Daniel wanted to help her, but Carmela didn't want any help. Daniel looked at Mrs. Mendez. She was busy talking and was looking the other way. Daniel reached over to pinch Carmela. He knew she wouldn't dare squeal. Just then he heard Mrs. Mendez was saying, You have 2 lovely children. They both have such good manners. You must be very proud of them. Carmela nudged Daniel. Daniel knew She was thinking about how he had acted yesterday. That was how he acted all the time, unless company was around. After breakfast the next morning, Dad read his verse from the Bible. Do that which is right and good in the sight of the Lord. Keep though you're young, Daniel, you can still do right every day. Do you think it's pleasing the Lord to have company manners? We have to be kind when company is here, Daniel said. Don't you think God also wants us to be kind and thoughtful when just our family is here? Asked Dad. Daniel hung his head. The tattling, selfish Daniel was not doing right all the time. I'm sorry, Carmela, and I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. Then Daniel told God he was sorry. And help me do right all the time, he prayed, not just when company is here. Okay, are you ready for the questions? Number 1. What do you think Daniel should have done instead of reaching across the table for the chips and salsa? That's right, he should have asked someone to please pass the chips and salsa to him. Question number 2. Why were Daniel's manners poor one day and good the next? Very good, because the one day it was just him and his family, and the next day there was company, so he had to be good. Question number 3. When should we be kind and thoughtful of others? Very good, we should always be kind and thoughtful of others. Well done, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I'll see you next time.